Welcome back into the Arrowhead Addict podcast, doing the Arrowhead Addict's top 50 Chiefs of all time. Last week we did 50 to 46. Right now we are doing 45 to 41. Who will be on this list? We have Patrick Allen, Matt Connor, Adam Best. Fellas, how we doing?
Good, ready to count down.
Let's do it, man.
I can't wait to argue. Coming in at 45, Dante Hall. Dante Hall, and again, going through everyone's list, he comes in at 45 overall. I have him at 48. Patrick Allen has him at 46. Adam Best all the way at 35. Matt Connor. Dante Hall did not make your list. Let's start with Matt Connor first. The exclusion of Hall, of the X Factor.
Why do you start with me?
Because you excluded him.
Yeah, you're explaining to do.
Look, honestly, I think I blew it on this one. But if I had to back it up, I don't mean to take the Weasley way out. I kind of blew it. You guys will make the case. I guess I'll say this. I don't think Devin Hester should be in the Hall of Fame. It's the same reason why some of you have 3 kickers on your list of top 50, and I have 1. And 0 punters, while some of you have 1 or maybe 2. If you play a bit role in the game, you're just not going to make my list. Yeah, you return some kicks, and when you're watching, it's thrilling to watch. And I loved watching him. But when I got to stack him up against guys who were on every play, like Dante Hall, the wide receiver, I'm not putting Stephon Page in the Chiefs Hall of Fame here. Look, I don't know. To me, it's a bit role, and I'm not giving you an Academy Award for saying 2 lines in the play.
2-time All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler, again, as a returner. Patrick, I'll go to you. You have him at 46. Why 46?
Look, there's a lot of really great Chiefs, but when I was getting down to the end of it and I was looking at the players that I had left in the pool, I just couldn't envision not having Dante Hall in my top 50. And thanks actually to Adam for having him ranked so high, because I think if he didn't, with Connor snubbing him completely, he may not have made the list. Again, we talked about this in the first grouping that we talked about. You've got to kind of balance like their performance, but also as a fan, like their impact on the organization as a Chiefs. And when I think about great Chiefs players, and I think about the special teams, and I think about returners, I think about Dante Hall. One of the most electric Chiefs players ever. He has a couple of different all-time favorite highlights for me as a fan. What he did to the Denver Broncos, where he juked 4 times and 2 Broncos ran into each other and cleared the way and he scored, is not just one of the best plays that I've ever, it's one of the single greatest football plays I've ever seen. It's absolutely incredible. The degree of difficulty, he had no help. He just literally juked them to death. And they had a pile up, and then he ran for a touchdown. Absolutely incredible player, super guy as well. Definitely belongs in the top 50. X Factor, baby. Not the guy that's in jail.
He made the all 2000s team as a heads of the Hall of Fame all 2000s team. Dante Hall was on it as a returner. Adam Best, you had him the highest. You had him all the way up there at 35. State your case.
Yeah. Shots fired from Matt Connor about someone having 2 lines and winning an Oscar. I'm a movie guy. Patrick knows this. So this is kind of out of left field. But in 1976, an actress won Best Supporting Actress for the fantastic classic Network. Beatrice Straight. She was on camera for 5 minutes. But this isn't about how long you're around. It's about impact. It's about how memorable you are. And Dante Hall had 7 return touchdowns in 10 games. He was an MVP candidate at the time in 2003. He went on Letterman. That's how big he was. So this is one of the most memorable Chiefs we've ever had in Arrowhead. I mean, really, outside of Mahomes and Derek Thomas, I'm not sure anybody has ever electrified me at Arrowhead like Dante Hall. And I think a lot of Chiefs fans would say the same thing. He got that place going better than maybe all but 4 or 5 guys. So I just think he is ingrained in the tapestry of the Chiefs story, maybe more so than anybody on a per contribution basis. I don't know. He's an outside character in the story of the Kansas City Chiefs.
So I have him at 48. right? That's just in the top 50. I kind of agree with both of you, which of course, look at me sitting on a fence. It is the whole bit roll. How much of an impact can you make? But the fact is he's one of the top 3 return men of all time in NFL history, right? And for me, I don't know how much you can look at the early 2000s in Chiefs football. He's one of the first names that come up, right? I'm not saying he was the best Chief, but again, that's one of the names that your mind automatically goes to. One of the first games I ever went to, it may have been the first Chiefs game I ever went with my dad. We're walking down to our seats. All of a sudden, what happens? As we are still getting to our seats, we're watching from the aisle, Dante Hall, touchdown, first play of the game on the opening kickoff. And from then on, I was like, I'm hooked. I'm a Chiefs fan. That may have been 2002 to 2003. So I'd been like 7 or 8. And I'm just sitting here going, oh, hell yeah, man. I'm all in. This is football. This is what football is. We're going to beat the hell out of you. Gary Glitter's rocking in the background and Dante Hall's returning kicks. Yeah, the child that I was sitting here going, this is badass. And before we move on, I have to show something to the class. So Dante Hall signed baseball. Yeah, a Dante Hall signed baseball. You might be asking, Sterling, why do you have a Dante Hall signed baseball? Well, my mom was at an event and Dante Hall was there. And in her purse was a baseball. And she asked him to sign it. And I have a couple questions. One, why did she have a baseball in her purse, right? Why? Why was that normal? I never questioned that. And then 2, are you not going to get Dante Hall's signature on a baseball? Like, it's like Randy Jackson. If you saw him in the street and all you have is a sword, you're getting that sword signed by Randy. Same thing with Dante Hall. All she had was a baseball. I'm getting that baseball signed.
Do you have a Niall Davis hockey puck too? Maybe a Tamrick Vanover, like a fencing sword or something, a roller skate. I don't know.
Worth it for the Step Brothers reference. A+.
Thank you.
You said Tamarick. Wasn't it Tamarick? Turmeric?
That's the spice.
Turmeric?
That's a
Turmeric.
song.
I just think of like turmeric, turmeric Vanover.
And turmeric are spices, guys.
Hey, look, let me add this for my sake, because I didn't vote him on, but I will say this: when he was in his prime, we've talked about this in the first installment of the countdown. When you're talking about the subjective nature of some of these things, we're talking about like how afraid that guy made other teams.
Yes.
And there was a stretch of football. When opposing teams were like, I don't even know what to do on special teams. Like, let's kick it out of bounds. We'll take a short punt out of bounds versus give that guy a chance at all. And I mean, how rarely do you see a whole crowd going, I can't wait for them to punt it, not so our offense can get back on the field, but like, I need to literally watch the punt because it's the most exciting play of the game, because you never know when he's going to take it to the house. Like, that factor is huge. To me, that's part of the argument and maybe why I should have put him on. At the same time, the fact that you had to bring up some actress named Beatrice No Name,
got an Oscar.
some award-winning Oscar Schmosker. I'm saying, look,
It was not Margot Robbie. Matt Connor's out.
Look, Crash won an Oscar for Best Picture, so I'm done with that whole argument.
Imagine him with the hybrid kickoff rule, though.
True. I've argued it both ways. I don't know how to. I'm stuck in my corner. I don't even know where to go now.
Right now, punt returns are a scare for Chiefs. Back then, it was like you're going to the county fair. It was much watch. You had to go. Coming in at number 44, good old John Carl Jack Rudnay. His entire 13-year career with the Kansas City Chiefs, he was a older Chief, Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl IV, 4-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, in the Chiefs Hall of Fame, center Jack Rudnay. We actually all had him in our top 50. Matt Connor, 45. I had him the highest at 39. Patrick, 43. Adam Best, 43. So all fairly close. Best, we'll start with you. You put him at 43. Why 43?
He had to make the list, but he's not a guy that's talked about by the kingdom, by the fans that much. However, he gets a loyalty bump. Never played in another uniform. I like that. He was a 4-time All-Pro. You have to reward that as well. And just an all-time tough guy aesthetic. If you look at him, he's got the beard. He's got the crazy strip down the face mask, like the T-bone face mask on his helmet. Just an all-around badass. Best center to date in Chiefs history, probably. Now, is Creed Humphrey coming for that title? Maybe, but it's too early on in his career to say that he's the best already. So Jack is probably the best to ever do it, the best to ever hike in a Chiefs uniform. That gets you on the list.
Patrick, we'll go to you. You had him coming in at 43, tied with Adam Best.
Yeah, look, I had to do my research. Obviously, I didn't get to watch Jack play. So you want to do right by those old timers just because I'm not as old of an old timer myself. Look, this is a guy, first, obviously, the thing that jumps off the page at you is the four-time All-Pro. That's incredibly difficult to do. He played 144 straight games for the Chiefs. He played 178 games for them overall. That, at the time of the writing on the Chiefs website, was the third most ever by a Chiefs offensive lineman. Was widely regarded as one of the finest linemen and finest centers in the league in the 70s. He was a Pro Bowler. That, for me, like that Iron Man streak, the 144 straight games that started in 1970 and lasted the entire decade. Fun fact about him is he was actually drafted by the Chiefs when they were in the AFL, but he never played in the AFL because he had a back injury in like a college all-star game. So he missed the Super Bowl season. So I wore this my throwback Chiefs hoodie in honor of the old timers.
Sterling, you had him the highest of all. Why did you list him so high?
Well, again, when you are a 4-time All-Pro, 13 seasons only in Kansas City, again, it's a little difficult. If he would have played, in the 90s or the 2000s, we probably all would have had him even higher, right? Fact is, we didn't see him play. It's, I don't want to say a forgotten era by any means, because that was before this current era. That was the height of the Chiefs' success. But again, that was well before my time. So it's hard. I am the highest, and I still think he would have played in today's era. We might have even had him higher. There has to be something, as Patrick Allen pointed out, something to be said about playing for one team and only one team. I think that's important when it comes to this top 50 Chiefs of all time. We're talking about what they did in Kansas City, right? As much as I'd like to put Andre Bad Moon Rising on here, it was 1 year in Kansas City. We're not talking about his NFL career or Ty Law. So sorry, you won't see Ty Law making this list. So that's where it comes for me, the longevity, the success, and again, also being regarded as one of the best centers in the NFL in the 70s. That, for me, put him at 39. You had him at 45. Again, you had him in your top 50. For you, Matt Connor, why 45?
Yeah, in fact, as we're talking, I'm even wishing I would have put him higher because of something Adam said, which is, the guy may be the best center in Chiefs history. Is the best center in Chiefs history if you're talking about decorations and accolades and whatnot. And you just think, well, gosh, the Chiefs have had so many incredible offensive linemen over the years. If we're talking about any other position, the best at that position is a top 10 guy. The best tackles and the best guards are regarded among the very, very best Chiefs to ever play the game. And you're talking about centers. We've had some great centers from, I think Rodney Hudson was really probably near Pro Bowl level when he was here. Mitch Morse near Pro Bowl level when he was here. We're watching another young guy who's beating them all in Creed Humphrey. But certainly, Casey Weigman, they've always had very, very good centers, above average centers, and great O-line play. And so if you're talking about, hey, there was a guy who came before all of them who played for Stark Industries, Iron Man style, and then, then he earned all these accolades. It's actually, if that guy is the best on it, as a fan base that celebrates great O-line play, Chiefs fans love to say, oh, we love great trench play because of Rofe, because of Shields, because of Schwartz. Then a guy who is the best center, we should know his name a lot more. And so I'm maybe thinking he really probably should be in the 20s or 30s.
I think the issue there is he was overshadowed by Hall of Famers, by legends, by kind of household names. We got Buck Buchanan, Len Dawson, Emmett Thomas, Bobby Bell. The list keeps going, right? And it's just hard for him to kind of get the same amount of shine as those other guys. But to bring some perspective to that Iron Man streak, Joe Tooney, who we think of as maybe the greatest Iron Man among current offensive linemen, 107 games with modern recovery science and all the advances we have right now. So that really puts things in perspective for what Jack did back in the day.
That's multiple seasons short of where he was at.
Jack, here's to you. Here's to you, Jack. Still around here at 76 years old. Let's get him on the show. Let's get Jack here and let him know that we are here trying to make Jack Rudnay a household name in 2024.
Rudnay Dangerfield. No respect. No respect.
Okay, we're going to move on before I let Matt Connor get on a roll here. Number 43 on our list.
That was good.
Alex Smith. We had a little bit of agreement between Patrick and myself. We had a little bit of disagreement with Matt Connor and Adam Best. Alex Smith coming in at 43 overall. Matt Connor had him the highest at 34. Patrick had him at 40. I had him at 43. Then Adam Best just cracking the list. That was his number 50. We'll start with you, Best. Coming in at 50. Why 50?
I want to put him on the list because of positional value. But for me, Trent Green, definitely a better player. I just really think he's a better player. Worst coach, I think he was saddled by bad defenses. No disrespect to Dick Vermeil, but Andy Reid is now on the Mount Rushmore of coaches, arguably. One of the 4 or 5 best to ever do it. I just think he was a better player. So I had him after Trent Green, but I wanted him to be on the list because I think he was a really good quarterback. But at the end of the day, he was a bridge quarterback. He was a quarterback that couldn't take you very far in the playoffs. He was a little bit of a game manager. I know that's a dirty term, but he had limitations as a passer, as a player who could make things happen out of structure. He just couldn't carry an offense the way the Chiefs needed him to win a Super Bowl. And that's why they had to move on to Patrick Mahomes. And actually, I find myself wondering quite a bit. I know a lot of people think that Patrick Mahomes benefited from that year off. I think he could have come right in and made some magic happen with that team. That was a very good team that last year. What was that last year? 2017, where the Chiefs lost in the playoffs. I'm trying to think. Was that the crazy game where Mariota caught his own touchdown? Am I remembering that right? I don't know. I just kind of think Mahomes, as a rookie, would have taken him further. Hot take, but I believe it.
So for those of you who missed out, who are listening right now, we did have Trent Green on our list coming in at 49 on our top 50. So if you missed that, Alex Smith again coming in at 43. Patrick, you had him at 40 on your list. 40. Why 40 for Alex Smith?
There's a lot of reasons. One, Alex Smith is just one of my favorite Chiefs of all time. Like the human being he is, his story, even after he left Kansas City and before he came to Kansas City, is really compelling to me. But also, like, I disagree with Adam. Like, I think Alex Smith was a better quarterback than Trent Green. Trent Green may have been more talented than Alex Smith. You know, look, Trent Green couldn't run. He couldn't move. Like, he was a statue back there. Alex Smith had wheels. He had a part of his game that Trent Green didn't have. And look, it's close. I'm not saying Alex is like head and shoulders above Trent. Trent could really sling it. But like Alex Smith didn't throw a billion interceptions. Like Trent Green threw a lot of interceptions in his time in Kansas City, threw 85 picks. Alex Smith threw 33. Like if Alex Smith was on those Trent Green teams, I think they would have won more than they did with Trent Green.
I don't want to hear Trent Green slander ever. I'm sorry.
I love Trent Green. I'm just telling you, he was turnover prone. He made mistakes. He was one-dimensional in the pocket, like he couldn't run. I think when I'm comparing those two, and they're both great Chiefs, I think before Patrick Mahomes arrived, Alex Smith was the second best quarterback in Chiefs history. You know, he has a better quarterback rating, interception percentage. Trent Green 3.1. Alex Smith's is 1.4. That's better than Patrick Mahomes. Now, you could say that was because he was too conservative, but he won a ton of games in Kansas City. They didn't make the playoffs 1 year while he was there, and they still had a winning record that season. I believe they finished 9-7. So he was an excellent quarterback. I know we're all really, really spoiled right now, but like Alex Smith was an excellent quarterback during his time in Kansas City, and they may have won a little bit more if they hadn't drafted Patrick Mahomes, if he was able to stay in the position longer. So I think he's definitely deserves a place on this list.
Connor, I'll get to you last since you had him the highest ranked on your board. I had him coming in at 43, and of course, overall he's 43, so nailed it right there. Feeling pretty good about that one. To me, he's Trent Green, but the complete different style. Like, I don't think if you would have switched him out, like which team, which player, you know, who is better. It's like they're completely different styles. I think they end up getting to almost the exact same result. That's why I had Alex Smith at 43 on my list and Trent Green at 44. They're just different style players. You're right, though. Alex Smith, I don't know how much he necessarily elevated the Chiefs, but he was the bridge quarterback that ushered in the new era. It's always the what if game of, maybe Mahomes did need a sit, but he did, and now we know what we know. The fact is, Mahomes himself and a lot of the players in the organization has given so much credit to Alex Smith for mentoring Mahomes. That has to count for something. You don't hear that from every other team, right? You don't hear that from every other player, by the way, when they draft a quarterback that you know is taking this dude's job. In his final year, Alex Smith was outstanding, right? He was checked down Charlie the first 4 years in Kansas City, but that fifth year, he really opened it up. Over 4,000 yards, 26 tutties, 5 interceptions. I mean, we finally were like, this is what Alex Smith was supposed to be when he was drafted. And then, of course, Mahomes came. And Mahomes was just the next elevation of this. So Alex Smith was a damn good quarterback in here. I kind of have some positional value, maybe boosting him up overall from some of the other players. But I had him at 43 on my list, and I feel like that's pretty darn reasonable in my opinion. Matt Connor, you had him the highest out of all of us at 34. Why 34 for Alex Smith?
I don't think he's even comparable with Trent Green. I think he is so clearly QB3 in Chiefs history, and so you got to slot him there in the 30s. That's where we're at. Look, if you classified where the Chiefs were at in 2012, it is a lowest point, not just in Chiefs franchise history, but take any franchise's darkest days. I would say it's probably in the top 5 all-time NFL darkest moment for a franchise. Fans are paying to fly banners overhead saying, "Save our Chiefs." The whole Scott Pioli weirdness of shroud of secrecy, the lack of overall talent. You win 2 games. Any pride that anyone took in the Chiefs was completely gone. In a whole region where Chiefs pride defines the cultural identity. And out of that, I don't think enough could ever be said about both the work of the coaching staff, the front office, and then also on the field. I think Andy Reid gets his accolades, and I think John Dorsey gets his accolades. But those guys can't execute. Those guys can only do so much. And when it came time to executing on the field, those Chiefs ran off a shitload of wins. I'm sorry, but they did. So to me, it's like, you know what? The guy who is most responsible for what happens with the football brought immediate turnaround from one of the single most darkest times for any team in NFL history ever. And we're still living in that golden era today. I almost wish that there was an alternate universe. I mean, we're all glad that Patrick Mahomes is here, but I hate the fact that Alex Smith only got like a 5 or 6 year run with it. And I hate the way that it ended for him, a trade to Washington and then the tragic injury. It would have been nice to see what he could have done with I'm with one franchise for a long time, like the Chiefs, and called it a career on his terms. In some alternate universe, I wish that for him. And in that last year, the way he pulled it out going, "Hey, you want to call me a game manager? I'll go deep. Watch me command this offense."
He did have Tyreek Hill. I mean, and it needs to be mentioned.
I'm saying it's there. The performance was there. The steadiness was there. He was a Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner. He was as good off the field as on it. I just think he deserves to be celebrated like very few others. He's a model citizen and an exemplary quarterback.
Yeah, this era of Chiefs, this era of winning and success for the Kansas City Chiefs, it's probably going to end with Patrick Mahomes, but it started with Alex Smith. Don't forget all the things that we've been a lot of the things we've been celebrating. The winning streak that we had over the Broncos, that was inherited by Alex from Patrick Mahomes. Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. These are the quarterbacks from Trent Green before Alex Smith took over the reins. Damon Heward, Brody Croyle, Tyler Thigpen, Matt Castle, more Brody Croyle, Matt Castle and Brody Croyle, Matt Castle, Tyler Palko, Kyle Orton, Matt Castle and Brady Quinn, Alex Smith and Chase Daniel, and then Alex Smith comes with Chase Daniel. That is brutal. That is absolutely brutal. And if you go back before Trent Green, you got a couple good players in there, but it's not pretty until you get back to Len Dawson. Alex Smith, all-time Chief.
The Trent Green conversation is fine. I can hear people saying that Alex Smith is better than Trent Green. I got to pump the brakes when we're talking Joe Montana and Len Dawson, because I heard him mentioned as the second best, the third best. I don't think he's even in the conversation till 4. I think we have to attribute some of this to Andy Reid, a guy that made Jeff Garcia and Kevin Cobb and guys like that look like Pro Bowlers. Michael Vick, he brought out the best in Michael Vick. This is truly the quarterback whisperer. So I don't know. It's hard for me to elevate him more than 4 or 5. I hate to be the naysayer here. I obviously respect Alex Smith as a human being and his contributions to the city and this era, this dynasty. I think he's kind of the forgotten man sometimes. But if we're being honest about talent, and I just think we need some levity here.
Coming in at merits, so listen,
we're never going to end this conversation.
One
Alex
more
Smith,
thing. I want to judge him on his merits. Yes, Andy Reid is great, but Alex Smith was a bad quarterback when he was with an organization that was being run poorly and had bad coaching and coaching changes. And he was a good quarterback when he had a good coach. And it wasn't just Andy Reid. When Harbaugh came into San Francisco, he was going to the NFC Championship game. He wasn't wowing you with numbers, but he was basically starting from scratch because the early career was so mismanaged. And yes, Montana, historically a better quarterback than Alex Smith was, but on the Chiefs, I don't know, man. He's 3rd all time in wins for the Chiefs. He's got more wins than Trent Green. It's just Mahomes and Dawson ahead of him. So I'm judging him on his merits. What did he do, throughout the course of his career in Kansas City? And in Kansas City, he was tremendous.
He did get benched for Colin Kaepernick, though. He did. That happened.
What's that?
He got benched for Colin Kaepernick. That happened.
Yeah, did you watch Colin Kaepernick back then?
He was incredible. I'm a fan of Colin Kaepernick, but
he was incredible those first couple of seasons. He looked terrifying. I would have probably benched Alex Smith for Colin Kaepernick too. He had a howitzer for an arm. He was running around out there juking people out of their cleats.
Who was then benched for Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert's the best quarterback of all time. All right, coming in at number 42. Number 42. I apologize. I might butcher the name. I am not old enough to have watched this man play. Sherrill Headrick, a 4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, 2-time AFL champ, right, back in the 60s. Sherrill Headrick, you got to put him on there. One of the more decorated Chiefs defensive players, right, not named Bobby Bell, Buck Buchanan, a little bit before those guys, actually. So Sherrill Headrick coming in at number 42 overall. I had him at number 40. Patrick, you had him at 38. Matt Connor, 37. And then Adam Best, 49. Matt Connor, let's start with you because I can always guarantee that Patrick and Best are going to start talking about Alex Smith fighting again. You had him at 37. Why 37?
Look, none of us saw him play. It's not like any of us can go back and go, if you think Derek Thomas was something, if you think Bobby Bell was something, you should have seen this guy. But here's what, we know they call him Psycho. We know he's in the Chiefs Hall of Fame. And, the Chiefs have a great tradition of great linebacking going through to, Derek Johnson and then all the way through to the current core we see now. Here's the original. Here's the original guy who was one of the game's best middle linebackers right when it first started. You got to pay tribute to these guys. You guys can talk about some of his other, some of his decorations and accolades that he received, but, he's the first great Chiefs linebacker. You can't make a list like this without including him on it.
There are some fun quotes just going with the nickname Psycho, as you mentioned. Apparently, despite feeling pain in his neck, he played the entire game, learning of a vertebrae fracture 5 days later. Not only that, he learned about it, then decided to play the following week. And that's how the name Psycho came about. Hank Stram supposedly said that Headrick refused to wear hip pads, had the highest pain threshold he'd ever seen in an athlete, playing with a broken neck, infected gums, and a fractured thumb. When an injury left the bone in his finger protruding from the skin, he popped the bones in place without missing a play. Maybe dude actually was a psycho. Patrick, you had him on your list coming in at 38. Your thoughts on Sherrill Headrick?
Yeah, I don't know how much I need to add. The dude played with a bone sticking out of his finger, popped it back in, and he didn't miss a play. That's insane. On toughness alone, he deserves to be on this list, but he was also incredibly decorated. He was a 2-time AFL champion in 62 and 66, a 3-time first team All AFL Pro 60, 62, 2-time second team All AFL, 5-time AFL All-Star. He's in the Chiefs Hall of Fame. As you mentioned, he had 15 interceptions. By the way, I read this. He worked in the Texas oil fields before joining the Dallas Texans. I mean, what more? Like, I'm actually really annoyed that I didn't get to see this guy play football in real time, because he sounds like an absolute blast. And he seems like if this is a guy like this was playing today, instant fan favorite. Everybody'd be obsessed with him. So you just admire like the blue collar, going to go out there, do my job, tough. His nickname Psycho. And actually, funny enough, it seems like what ended and ruined his career, he ended up in the on the Bengals. I think he got traded to the Bengals, lasted one more season, and that was it in 1968.
Yeah, the Chiefs drafted Willie Lanier and Jim Lynch in 1967, which allowed Headrick to go to the Bengals in the 1968 expansion draft. So the Bengals were able to choose him because of the expansion.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they stole him. That's what ruined his career.
1 year with Skyline Chili, and it was over.
The stupid Bengals. I mean, can you imagine having a guy out there like that now? Like, remember the guy that used to vomit at the line of scrimmage? They called him Puke. And then he went and he was a wrestler. Imagine this guy out there just like he's got like bones sticking out. The other team would just be so freaked out. The ball carrier would probably just go down.
Adam Best probably does not care about physicality, having him at 49. Why 49, the lowest on our list there, Best?
It's hard to fit everybody on your list. And if I'm looking at ways to disqualify guys, time with the Dallas Texans was one easy way. So him and the next guy on our list spent a good amount of their time with this franchise in Texas. Nothing against them. It just seemed like an easy line to draw where I could slim this list down a little bit. So it simply comes down to that. I love what I'm hearing about him. I love what I've heard about him. He has sort of the dog in him of Isaiah Pacheco, the attitude of Trey Smith. I mean, what's not to love? Ultimate tough guy. Patrick's 100% right. If Twitter was around for Sherrill Headrick, the fans would be gushing over his toughness. But yeah, he cracked the list for me. He probably would have been higher if I didn't kind of have that Texans rule, but I did.
Before we move on to number 41, a little fun fact. Again, I like learning about these older players, and hopefully everyone listening likes learning about them as well. He was also a nationally renowned tournament bridge player, earning the rank of Diamond Life Master, awarded by the American Contact Bridge League. Not just physical, but also a mental giant as well. Coming in at number 41 on our list is Abner Haynes. Abner Haynes, Best did not have him on his list. Patrick had him at 39. I had him 41. Matt Connor, 38. Let's start with you, Connor. You had him the highest at 38. Abner Haynes, why 38?
I fell in love with the Kansas City Chiefs watching a great running back, Christian Okoye. I stayed in love with the Chiefs because I loved watching more great running backs, from Marcus Allen to Priest Holmes to Jamal Charles, Larry Johnson, on and on. For me, if I was going to pay respect to older players who even had time, like Adam said, with the Dallas Texans, I had to tip a cap to the first great running back in Chiefs history, the guy who held all the records until further greats came along. And he was the first player of the year in the AFL. He was truly great at his role, at a position that I have a lot of warm fuzzies about in general. Yeah, he was the forerunner of the runners, if you will. So, yeah, I love him for that, and I was happy to put him on my list where I did.
Patrick, you had him on your list at 39. What's up with Abner Haynes?
I mean, you just got to look. He's like one of the most decorated players in the history of the franchise. He was an AFL champion in 62. Won the AFL MVP. He was the comeback player of the year, rookie of the year, AFL, 3-time AFL All-Star. He was the rushing touchdown leader 3 times. I mean, I could go on. Like, he was the AFL rushing leader in 60, the kickoff return yard leader. Like, he's just a super exciting running back. I actually read that he was drafted into the NFL, I think by the Steelers, but his dad was like a religious person or a minister or something, and the Steelers delegation showed up to his house drunk, and so he signed with Kansas City or with the Texans in AFL instead. Kind of a fascinating story, but super decorated player, a great before the greats, as Matt Connor pointed out.
Before I get to you, Bess, who had him off your list, again, same thing. He was the founding father of the Chiefs' great running back position. Again, you mentioned all the accolades that he had. Probably would have had him higher, but again, he went to Denver. He played for a good amount of other teams, only 5 years here in Kansas City. He did have a funny story where he was supposed to say in overtime in the AFL championship game of that 1962 game, Hank Stram, they were playing. It was very, very windy, and he was supposed to pick a side to defend. So he was supposed to say, "We'll kick to the clock." Well, he said, "We'll kick," which means they did not get to go which way they wanted to go, and it could have been a very costly blunder, but they got lucky, and it went to double overtime where the Chiefs, back then, again, the Texans, eventually won. When he was asked about the mistake following the game, Abner Haynes says, "I knew we'd need the win behind us in the sixth quarter." Just a funny little quote from Abner Haynes. All right, Bess, you did not have him on your top 50. I assume why, going back to the Texans rule you had, but give your case right now for everyone.
Yeah, that's part of it. He was a dude, and I'd like to give all these guys their flowers, but two things. The Texans rule. He played most of his Chiefs-Texans career for the Texans. The other thing is, I just want to be consistent here. And if you look at how I rank these upcoming players, Larry Johnson, Priest, Tony Richardson, I'm the lowest on everybody because of positional value. That's always been something I've kept in mind.
Spoiler alert. So you hate running backs and Matt Connor hates special teamers. We know it.
And then I'm second lowest on Jamal Charles, even though I'm a huge Jamal Charles fan. So yeah, it just came down to consistency, and he just missed the list.
Well, this was our 45 through 41. Again, we had Dante Hall, Jack Rudnay, Alex Smith, Sherrill Headrick, and Abner Haynes. Last week, we had Dustin Colquitt at 50, Trent Green at 49, Jared Allen 48, Gary Green 47, Harrison Butker 46. Up next, we will be going with numbers 40 through 36 as we count down to the top 5 and number 1 Chief in Kansas City Chiefs history. For Patrick Allen, for Matt Connor, for Adam Best, I am Sterling Holmes. Until next time, we are out.